everyone, welcome to another Underrated Film Saturday, and today I'm going to be briefly diving into a Coen Brothers film that I think did get a little bit overlooked. I will say though, I don't think it is of the superior of the Coen Brothers works. I mean, I think there's a lot of other material that they have that I think is superior to this one in particular, but I still think it is still worthy of recommendation, and I think it ultimately, unfortunately, got put a little bit under the bus. And I think this could do with has to do with probably a variety of reasons. I think one being the fact that the film is sort of structured in a very odd way. And obviously, I kind of know that a lot of the Coen Brothers films are kind of structured really weirdly and kind of have bizarre moments and characters. But here kind of feels like it doesn't really lead ultimately anywhere. And I can sort of understand that, that people not enjoying that particular aspect of it. And then also, I think the fact that its characters are ultimately not necessarily as likable, or as maybe engaging, or maybe as in depth as some of his other their other material. But I think it was sort of intended to be that way. I think all the characters are generally supposed to be kind of unlikable. They're not supposed to be the characters that you kind of root for. They're supposed to be kind of these really bad people who end up having bad things kind of happen to them. And then that sort of having that be the story, I think, is really what the film was sort of intended to be. So what I think stands out in particular about this film is the performances. I mean, all of these actors do a fantastic job. You got John Malkovich in it, you've got Brad Pitt, you've got George Clooney, you got all these famous people in it, and they're all doing a really good and decent job for the people that they're supposed to be playing. And, they're all kind of very overly raunchy and kind of wacky and crazy characters. But at the end of the day, it was sort of the intended purpose, I think, for the film. And that's, I think, ultimately what makes it come off as rather entertaining, is the fact that these are not usually the run-of-the-mill characters that you often see a lot of times within films. So I think that is something that makes it rather interesting, I guess, out of the box. But basically, the story follows a former CIA analyst who's played by John Malkovich. And he basically ends up losing a disc of his memoirs. And this ends up being picked up by some other individuals within the film who basically kind of sell it in order to get money. And they ultimately want to end up getting more information out of him once they figure out who he is, so they could get more money and basically sort of sell the information to people. And yes, it is really unbelievably ridiculous in how they approach it, and it is unbelievably out there. And even at the end of the film, you kind of are left with a "what in the world did I just watch" feeling. But at the same time, I think, again, that's the film's intention. It's designed to be a film that sort of makes you go, "What, really? Like, what was the intended purpose?" And I think the idea behind a lot of what goes on within this film is to sort of show you how paranoid and how crazy things can get, especially when people live very kind of immoral lives with no kind of direct compass for themselves. And I think it's part of what I guess you could say is kind of maybe some of the underlying, at least part of the underlying message within this film. And although it is not, again, rated the highest among their films, I would definitely say it is still goofy and eccentric and a little ridiculous. It has sort of a dark humor to it as well, so if you kind of prefer dark humor, again, this is sort of up your alley. But I think it definitely did get a little bit pushed underwards, and I think a lot of that can be due to the fact that it's not traditionally like a lot of other films that people are sort of more used to seeing. And I think that can be a turnoff for some people. And I can definitely understand that this film is definitely not for everybody. But I think it is worthy of a recommendation if you're sort of into this kind of, if you're into kind of films that try to push a little bit outside the box and kind of try to go for sort of unconventional type characters. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about the film without really giving too much away. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize I had to delay this video. Unfortunately, I was pretty busy over the weekend. But I should be caught up by the end of the day as of Sunday. But until next time, everybody,